to Big Blend Radio's Music Monday show with Nancy and Lisa. Well, depending on whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to us on one of your favorite podcast outlets, that was Sunrise, which is the second track from the album Crossings by guitarist Jon-Durant and Stephan-Thelen. Both of them live in different countries. So John was in Oregon, Stefan, I should say, I want to go German on him now. Stefan is in Switzerland. And really, if you listen to this album, Crossings, it is a global guitar conversation. And to us, it's a supersonic, fluid, floating journey. It's about flow, and we love it. So check it out. We're very excited to have Jon-Durant back on the show and to welcome Stefan for the first time. So welcome back, John. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's great to be back with you and actually do it in a visual sort of way this time.
And we got to meet you in person.
I know, that was delightful.
That was so much fun. I know. None of us are normal.
Apparently not.
That's why we all get on so well. Exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
So welcome, Stefan. How are you? And sorry, I'm trying so hard not to say Stefan. I used to have a boss named Stefan. And
in Switzerland, there's Stefan.
Stefan.
Yeah, but I like Stefan. It's
Stefan. Hey, but you were actually born in Santa Rosa, California, one of our favorite places.
Correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I lived there for 10 years until my parents decided to go back to Europe, and then been living in Switzerland since.
Oh, wonderful.
Wow.
So how did you meet John? Because we call John the European. He's got a new nickname with us. It just happens for a lot of reasons, and you'll explain that later. But how did you meet John?
I met John in Kingston, New York, when he came to see a concert where I was playing. I was playing with a friend of mine, which John also knew very well. And he came down from Boston to see that concert. Long way, so I was honored. We were all honored, and we met there for the first time, and then we talked a bit. And later I invited him to play on an album that I was doing at the time. And that went very well. And I immediately decided to ask him to play on the next album as well. And that went very well too. And while we were doing that, we decided to record some duo pieces. And that it started without the idea of an album, just to do one piece. But then it became a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth piece. And then all of a sudden we found out we were doing an album. So.
It really was an organic thing, wasn't it? Yes. It just kind of started from one piece, and oh, hey, I have this other idea. Let's try this, and it was great. I have to say, one of my favorite aspects of it is exactly that it wasn't like we sat down and said, okay, let's do an album together as just a duo thing. We really. We've gotten ourselves into this working relationship where one of us will have an idea and throw it out to the other one and say, hey, what do you think of this? And it need not have been things that we were necessarily going to be doing together. It was, I'm also doing, at the same time, I've got a Burnt Belief record coming. I had my album with Peter Chilvers, who we did before. So all of these sorts of things were happening all at the same time. And it's really, it's been such an incredible creative experience during this time where we're all locked down, right? We're all sort of, we're in that zone of okay, well, I don't have anything else to do, so I'm going to get really creative and come up with some interesting music, and it's really worked out great.
What's interesting about this album is that I know it's all guitars with some bass in there, but if you didn't know anything about the album, which I know Nancy's like that with books and music too, where we just don't listen, but now we know you, John. So that's
right.
That's a problem. No, I'm kidding. I'm just teasing you. But no, really, when you listen to it, you would not know it was all guitars. And I think that is this brilliant thing that you've managed to do with all the albums we've listened to of yours over the years. And you're doing this with all kinds of different musicians, Stefan here too. And I just find it fascinating that you're not in a studio like mapping out each note, because it's this, and I think that's what makes this fluidity, this flow. That's why I said it's a sonic journey. Nancy will say it's sonar because she calls it just don't take this the wrong way, but we call it whale music. Pink Floyd, we
Yes.
call it whale music because there's a sonar thing that when you go underwater,
Mhm.
there's this other sound, and you guys bring that out, especially in this album. There's like we
Mhm.
always talk about the water theme with you, John, but this album especially has this sonar, I don't know, calling, it's like a magnetic field
It
that
comes
takes you home.
It comes from, I went to a poetry slam in Encinitas, California, and this man got up to recite his poetry, and they had background music that was like whale calls.
Mhm.
And so they played whale calls, and then he stood up on the stage and he went, and the whale said,
No, okay, that's when it
and
got
I'm
weird.
sorry, I got the
But
giggles.
the
I
music
really
of the
did, because
whale,
I thought it was really funny.
but there is the sound of whales, and
But
there
there is a sound of
and in fact,
communication underwater and above water.
yeah.
That's why I could put it.
So have
It's-
we
it's-
weirded you out yet?
Well, you know what's funny? First of all, you know the band that I went to see Stefan playing with is his band Sonar.
Oh,
So-
well,
so
sorry.
we'll use that as a
Oh,
launching
cool.
point. But on top of that, one of the things that we did on this record, there's a whole lot of sort of almost call and response in a way that, you know, we're used to it in a certain jazz vibe where, you know, somebody
Mhm.
plays a phrase and somebody echoes the phrase or whatever. We do that, but in a really very different sort of
Yeah.
way. Like we have much more elongated phrases that the other one then picks up and takes off.
But there's a
and-
choppy rhythm thing going on too, that not choppy, but like that's the side that you wouldn't think would be guitar.
and that's all. That's all Stefan. So,
So yeah.
so
What
he's
are you
our-
doing?
He's our rhythmic genius.
Yeah, how do you,
So-
because it's like when you think of rhythm guitar, you think, you know, ding-a-ling-a-ling. And like country or, you know, or folk, you know, singer-songwriter kind of stuff, but you don't think of that. And that's where it's completely amazing. Like this, you guys are like going like this, you know, you're twirling. It's cool.
Yeah. No, that came from my experience with delays. So I used to play you know, Moore's ambient kind of things with the delays, and eventually I got more interested in rhythms, and especially polyrhythms. I like different rhythms together. So I started experimenting with delays and polyrhythms, and you know, playing a rhythm in 3 and a rhythm in 7 together. So
Wow.
that one of the tracks has it builds on that idea that you have 2 different kinds of rhythm going on, and I play those with my guitar and into the delay machine.
That's really interesting because when you think about doing those kind of rhythms and you think about what our heartbeat is, and because doesn't music have to resonate with our heartbeat to get us to sink into it?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean it's the heartbeat and the breathing. I think those 2 aspects, and the heartbeat is more the rhythmic side, and the breathing is more the longer
flow.
The longer flowing sorts of things, which is interesting because that's sort of that's where I come in, because where Stefan is doing his really wonderful, precise rhythmic,
It's amazing.
you know, mathematical formulations. My job is to bring that breath, bring that air, and have these sorts of things that, you know, they move, they take you away from it being, you know, all static, and move it into a place where you're not always certain where it's going to go. And then we always end up landing on the right place at the right time.
That's amazing.
You know,
But it's
the
a
part
dance. I think I know we talk about it like it's like a musical conversation, but it's also like a dance.
It's to me, it's nature. So like if you have a garden, the plants are all growing at different paces, different rhythms. That's how I think about it. And when the sun goes up, it goes up at a different rhythm than when it goes down. So to me, then you have stars that come out one at a time. So to me, it's total nature.
Yeah, it's kind of like Stephan is doing the stars, like here we are, poke, poke, poke.
Yeah,
You can see them. And then John's going, hello, here comes my cloud. Oh, now you see me, now you don't.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what's so cool about the videos too. And everyone, you can find it on Stephan's YouTube channel, Stephan-Thelen, and it's Thelen. You'll find it. Just put in Jon-Durant, put in Crossings and Stephan-Thelen, and you'll find it on YouTube. But when you watch those videos too, I love it because that's like a total audio visual journey that you're on, and you really do connect with this, the sunrise and the clouds. It's infinity. I know we'll play that at the end for everybody, but I think people need this music. They need to kind of take it into your bodies. I think Nancy's right about the nature aspect.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's been so much uncertainty and angst and a lot of things happening that have made people, especially in this country, but around the world, there's a lot of unrest. And I think music like this, it takes time, and people need to actually stop sometimes and take the time and let things unfold a little bit instead of expecting a 3-minute package. A song like the title track that, what is it, 13-ish minutes long or something?
Something like that,
yeah. That starts from a very simple premise where, Stephan is doing a rhythmic loop in harmonics, and the way it builds into something quite enormous over the course of the piece, and then begins to back down, and it's an amazing journey throughout the whole thing. And people need to actually let themselves
so you have to sink into it,
taken over.
Sink into it. And I love the video parts of it, but there's also just close your eyes, go out in nature, just chill, just listen, because I like what Nancy says about it being in sync with nature. Stephan, how did you both do this while you're in 2 different places?
How does that work?
Well, that works because of the wonders of the internet.
Exactly.
Very simple. It's like I can record something at home and just basic track, and then I will send that to John, and John will play on top, and then he'll send me his track, and then I'll put them together at home and I'll listen to them, or maybe I'll edit something, or maybe I'll have a new idea and I'll add something, then I'll send it back to him and he does one more pass. And so eventually the pieces grow like that.
Oh, wow. That's different.
I think my favorite aspect of that, though, was Sunrise that you played to start, specifically because that was all one day. And
that was one day.
One pass.
I remember clearly. I got up in the morning, and like I usually do, I drink a coffee and look outside as the sun rises. And then I really had this piece in my head. I don't know where it came from. It was there. So I just was watching the sunrise and thinking, oh, I could do this and then that. And then I arranged the piece in my head a little bit. And then I went upstairs and did it in my computer, recorded it and sent it to John, same day. And he sent it back the same day. And it was, wow. I did correct some things that I didn't like what I played, but it was basically done in a few hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is where, there's a 9-hour time difference between us. So, Stephan gets up in the morning, he has his coffee, he does it, he sends it to me. I wake up in the morning and there's this track waiting for me. And I get up and I went, oh, this is beautiful. Plug my guitar in, I go, one pass, send it off to him that night. It was like, what a magical day that was.
But that's kind of interesting because you're jamming in a way, right? It's just this different format.
It was exactly that. It was almost like we were there as much as we possibly could be.
But you're not reading music, right? So you're just taking and listening. You listen to the track, you get it, and you get an idea of what you want. And so when you're playing it, when you're recording it, are you recording actually on top of that? So when Stephan gets it, that is now the two of you together, and then you start shaping.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to
So
do that.
You have this nice possibility because of the, because computers are so precise. You can just start a track somewhere, and that's just the point where everybody will start. So John can send me whatever he wants to. I'll just smack it at that place at the start. Then it will automatically be precisely synced with what I played.
So your mathematical background, does that help you with what you're doing now?
I mean, of course, in a way, it's influenced me, and I love to do math, and I have always been fascinated by math. But I mean, the people, when they hear that I'm a mathematician, they think, wow, this is very, very difficult music. And so that's not really the case. I mean,
No, it doesn't sound like that.
Music that I play, I mean, of course, numbers play a role. If you play with polyrhythms, you're always playing a little bit with numbers. But it's very, very, very simple math, actually, that I use.
What I like best about all of your music is that there's that mathematical aspect of it where if you sit down and count, you have to think and you have to be challenged. But all that goes away when you just close your eyes and you think and you listen. It all makes sense. It all feels fantastic. And so it need not, I don't often need to count out where it's going to be. It feels so correct without ever having to be, I have to go, where is 21?
That was a few years ago for me. but that's interesting because it goes again back to the heartbeat, because doesn't math start with natural rhythms? We wouldn't have math without nature. In a way,
Right.
I mean, we copy nature all the time, just even how you look at plants and how they know how to do what number here and segments of this and that. So it's fascinating, but that's what's neat. Doing instrumental music is something also very interesting to me because, I like to write lyrics and I love music with lyrics and I love instrumental music. There's also the aspect of instrumental music where the listener really, it truly becomes their own thing when they're listening, and it becomes a very visual thing, whereas lyrics, you have the audio visual and you can still create your own thing, but this instrumental, you can get into every day. It could be something different, meditational with your kind of music. And you can't put your finger on, oh, this is this music. I like that part too. But I think for the listener, you're not clouded by what that song was supposed to be.
That's actually my favorite aspect of instrumental music is exactly that somebody's lyrical ideas might make me feel good or might make me feel bad or might tell me this story or that story. Instrumental music, nobody's telling me the story. I'm making it up as I'm listening, and that's much more interesting to me.
I want to take the music, if I had the notes written out, and assign a color to all the notes and then paint the song. Does that sound crazy?
No, no, there's actually a very well-known psychological detail.
Oh, of course, that would be on Nancy.
which is no, it's a very real phenomenon that there are people who literally a certain note equals a certain color. And similarly, it also works with math, with numbers. Certain numbers create certain colorscapes, and it's a really interesting thing. And I know some people who have that, and it's one of them is a former teacher, and we were mixing an album several years ago together. And I had, in modern computer-based recording, one of the things you can do is you can assign colors to the various tracks. So my guitar, I put in, say, red, and the bass is maybe blue, and the drums are maybe yellow. And so I brought the tracks into the studio, and Randy looked at them and he went, "These colors are all wrong."
Back to the chair, John.
You just-
That's funny.
let me assign the colors because
That's so weird. It's like Google Calendars. I stopped doing Google Calendars just because of the colors. I'm like, stop it. Don't make me assign colors because I got stuck in the color zone. I was wheeling, literally. But that's interesting.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it.
Uh-oh. I think you should. You've done it. Now you've brought this up in the last couple of interviews, Nancy. You need to do that. But it's Stephan,
It's
for you in
bugging me.
math,
Did
did you ever use color in math?
Colors in math.
Yeah.
Well, I use colors, I teach math. So when I'm explaining something, I always use colors, of course. If I'm, if I have a sketch, then certain things are red and certain things are blue, just so that you can see it better. But otherwise, math and color is not really a connection I often think about.
It's interesting to talk about math because, growing up, they always said that if you learn music, you'll understand math more.
Yes.
And I really do think that, except for we had a rhythm guitarist who decided that there is no such thing as 3/4 time. Remember saying, that's called a waltz? No, that's not what it is. But anyway, we're not in a music relationship anymore. I'm just saying, how can you not say that?
Interesting.
It's no. But anyway, he didn't understand that 6/8 marches happen either. It's an interesting thing. But I want to talk about your guitars because this is an important thing. What are you doing? Because you're doing fretless a lot of the time, right, John?
I am.
And 12 string too?
There's an electric 12 string on the title track. I think that was the only place I used that one. But yes, the fretless has become in recent years a huge part of what I do. And again, it actually goes back to my old teacher back in 1978. I first heard him playing a fretless guitar that someone had built, and it was just amazing. It's just he was able to do this Indian phrasing and create these unbelievable melodic statements. And I first saw him in 78. 2 years later, I started studying with him, and I never picked up a fretless myself until when did I? So probably 7 years ago, my brother actually got a fretless guitar and brought it to me and said, "Hey, check this out. You should play this," knowing, my history. And I kind of specifically hadn't because of the Randy connection. Randy Roos was so great and so monstrous. And how could I possibly go there when he had done this, right? And but as soon as I put my hands on it, I fell in love. I knew I had to get one. So here in Portland, I have a very good friend who's a wonderful luthier, Saul Cole, and we had met and had coffee and we're good friends. And I thought, okay, Saul, I got to have you build me a guitar, but it's going to be fretless. And he went, "Ooh, yes, I've built one of those before. This is great." So he dove in and did it, and it took about a year. But as soon as I got it, it just became my primary thing. I mean, if I just go to pick up a guitar, 90% of the time, I go to pick up the fretless.
It's a different because it almost feels like you're like limitless on a fretless in a weird way. Like it's almost like you're playing a cello guitar. Do they have frets now? Wait.
No. You know what it is it just opens up how I phrase melodically. Where it becomes limiting is trying to play chords on it.
Okay, so it's almost like slide guitar. Could you play slide guitar, which honestly is that to me is like my heart, that I love slide guitar. Because I think it's so syncopated. And it slides. So I love that about slide guitar. Could you play slide guitar on a fretless?
I suppose you could, but I'm not sure why I would. I haven't thought about it.
Come on, just come on.
Because
put on a cowboy hat.
Come on.
I mean, what I could do that would make sense would be to play phrases similar to what I might do with a slide guitar.
Because that's, I think, what I really like about your playing is you're already doing that, and it's just this whole other sonic. It's a whole different thing. And I think I've always been attracted to slide music, slide guitar, because it's like,
to me, it's more vocal.
It is more vocal.
Yeah.
But then
It's
if you
more
don't have
free.
Stephan in there, now it's gone off on another trip and you're not coming home. And you need to have that
You
part
need
in
that grounding. And this
yes, I do.
This is but this is what makes it work so well, is that when you take Stephan's rhythm tracks and you add what I'm doing on the top, it takes his piece to a whole new level, and it takes what I do and gives it a context and a grounding that ends up making perfect sense.
So
and
opposites attract.
And they blend in such a way that I think it's just a fantastic combination.
Yeah, what I like about it is that it's very emotional. I mean, it's like like John said, it's like a singer singing a song, and it's a very emotional thing, and that's really what I like about this record. Is I mean, there's tons of ambient albums out there, but this one I think has a certain emotionality that I really love.
Yeah, it is vocal. Yeah.
And that's what I love about John's playing. It's very, it's technically very good, but it's what really impresses me is the emotions that I hear. I feel.
So Stephan, what are you playing? What are you playing guitar wise?
Well, I have a little bit of special tuning in my guitar. I used I don't know if you know Robert Fripp. He's a guitarist, an English guitarist who's quite famous in the rock world. He found a new tuning which I used for many years, but then in one project I had, in this group Sonar, actually, that John mentioned before, we had the idea that we would use a completely different tuning. So we tuned the guitar in tritones, which is a very unusual way to tune a guitar, because you can't practically play any chords. I mean, it's really difficult to play a major chord or a minor chord. So it's just a very special thing. And the good thing was that it gave me a lot of new ideas. Playing that tuning, I really found some new things that I wouldn't have found otherwise. So I'm stuck with that tuning. I'm still using it, and still trying to find new territories to explore with that.
It's interesting when you go to a new tuning, because it just opens up a whole new world. And then do you look at the past world and go, wait, do I want that one over there? It's like you go back. It's interesting about that, because and everyone has their signature sound as well with what they're doing, and to merge.
If you went to play with the orchestra, everybody would have to retune their instruments.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, the difficult thing for me is to improvise in the new tuning, because I've played so many years in the old tuning, so finding a new tuning and being able to improvise, that was very difficult. But finding new things out is something you can really do well with a new tuning that's so unconventional as this tritone tuning.
Well, I love that about what you're doing. Even the album is unconventional, which is, of course, why you're on our show, because we're totally unconventional. Like, just we don't do well with boxes or like any of that. But when think about musicians or students of music going, okay, I want to get into the music industry, which is oy vey. It's not the easiest path to take, but you've got to do what your soul is calling you to do. There is that. What would you say about that? Because you're both doing something out of the box and creative, and yet I think what's so great is merging all this unique creativity, and that's what creativity and originality is. It's art, but able to work together in that field. So for each of you, someone starting out, and I remember music, it's the same even being taught with math. The right teacher can change your math, and make it creative and fun instead of like this. Like when I learned history, it was like, this did this on this date. Well, that means nothing to me until I got out and looked at where we were and like what's happening, and go to an actual site where this happened. Then I got that emotion. Everything has emotion, even math has motion and emotion.
Sure.
So someone getting started, there's always that you must learn your scales and you must learn this and you must do that. Do we have to really do that? So John, can we jump out of the box first? Because I tried to jump out of the box first and then I got neat.
Well, I'll give you my perspective. There are people who have jumped out of the box from the get-go and have created something new and marvelous and completely unique. But it's really hard to do that if you're not grounded in certain basics. And so there are certain things that you do need to know to make, if you want to do something that is completely outside of the box, that's one thing. If you want to do something that's outside of the box, but that's still relatable to a lot of people, you need to be able to have it grounded in something. You need to be able to point to certain reference points and be able to go, okay, I need you to work in this harmonic zone, for instance, or, you know,
it's
that you're only
relatable
going
for
to know that by training and understanding, so that, you know, if I told Stefan, oh, okay, I've done this thing and it's in a whole tone, you know, sequence, right? He can then go, okay, yes, I know exactly what you mean by that.
Okay, so it's a language. So basically,
There's a
learn
language.
the language.
There's a language. When you're sharing with other people, you need a shared language.
I think you have to know the rules, so when you break them, you don't get caught.
or that when you break them in a way that you know why you broke it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stefan, what about you?
I would agree with what John says. You know, I mean, for certain people it would work, you know, not learning the basics, but I mean, for a normal person, it's probably the best way to learn the basics and to really start from there and then go your individual way. For me, it's always been important. I always try to remember what I felt when I was a small child. So somehow that I really have the feeling that everything important, what I have to say in this world is grounded in that time when I was a kid. So many things that I do, I remember scenes when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And I remember going to, like I said, I lived in Santa Rosa, so I went to Bodega Bay often.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
In the weekends, and you know, just sitting there and listening to the seagulls and hearing waves, those were musical memories for me that I really that play a role in what I do now.
Well, I think it's important because nature is the first music. Nature, your heartbeat, you know, and you know, it's all that connectivity. So it's interesting when you said sunrise, that was, you know, you watching a sunrise. And you look at the different, you know, song titles, crossings. I love that because that's about you guys connect. It's crossing and connecting, right? But there is a natural aspect, and that's why Nancy and I call it whale music, because it is that there are these sounds that come from nature. We don't always hear them, but we know they're there, and it's just and
you feel them.
It's a vibration. I mean, sound is vibration, and but then it just is that. I don't know. It's part of our DNA. I feel like it's embryonic. There we are. I got to the word finally. It took me a while, but it is embryonic.
If you're open to it, you know, if you can really, instead of trying to do household chores or work with music playing, if you just sit and really absorb the music, that at least personally, I get visual.
You trip out. She trips out on everything.
Yeah, I do.
Well, funnily, you know, it's an interesting thing because I do too, and I always have, and I similarly, there are impressions I still feel from things that I heard when I was 3 years old. I can still remember my uncle playing Tinker Tailor Soldier Sailor by the Yardbirds when I was 3 years old, and Jimmy Page playing with a violin bow on the guitar, right? And hearing that and knowing what was happening at 3 years old, somehow I instinctively got this, right? And I feel really strongly that one of the things we lose in this modern age where we're here on Zoom, we're glued to our phone, we're you know, and when I listen to music, there are a lot of times when what I want to do is shut all that off, right? And go back to the days when I was 12 years old and listening to King Crimson's USA or Trick of the Tail by Genesis or you know, Gong's Gazoos, and those moments where all I would have is a chair and two speakers in front of me.
Yes.
And this music that I completely wrap myself around, saying, okay, what is going on here? I need to be able to dissect, okay, this is exactly what the drums are doing. This is exactly what the guitar is doing. And my whole world for 45 minutes was that album. And then
that's so healthy.
To go back to that, it's like we almost never do, right? But I try really hard to once a day carve out an hour of just listening without, you know, and it's so hard because the phone rings. It's
but this is what I think is really important about the music that you're creating, and even prog rock. And I'm not good at all the genres. I don't care about it. I just like what I like.
Genres.
But I think there's something about prog rock and all of that, in that there is something mindfulness about all the music I've heard that comes out of that. And there's a mindfulness of the planet, of people feeling good. And it does require listening. It is not something you just go doof, doof, doof to. It is not rock and roll where you're going to party and have a good time, and that's all good. You're going to party and have a good time with prog rock. I'm not saying that, but there is a listening level to it. And I think, you know, what you're talking about, going back to, that's how I grew up. I was glued to the radio. I was one of those who, as a young kid, would sit and record off of the radio and make one tape onto another and cut and paste with tape on tape and do these mixes, like, and I really missed that. But you would sit and listen, and I'm like, "Shut up, DJ! Don't you talk over that note.
Don't talk over that beginning."
Remember that they used to always talk over the beginning.
Jeez, dude, shut up!
Or they would sing over it. I was like, "Dude, no, don't you sing over that. That sucked. You ruined it." And it was like, I don't know why they did it. If there was like cut the royalties for the musician, I was like, "Damn it!" But I used to do that. But also sit and listen. Friends growing up in high school, a good Mr. Rippin. Remember Nancy? I'd go see my friend Melissa and down the street, and I'd hang out with Mr. Rippin, and he'd let me have a rum and Coke. It was cool. We would sit and listen to Led Zeppelin
and right here,
Mark Bolan, and all these different albums. But you had to sit and listen. I've had many friends, just those times of listening where you're really listening, you're together. And I wonder about that being like today. It's like we need to meditate and do yoga and all of these things to calm ourselves. I think it's because we got away from listening to music together. Even we've done interviews on transcendental meditation,
transcendental meditation.
I can't do it.
Accidental meditation.
It sounds like you're going to the dentist.
Meditation.
But we've done a lot of these things, which I know that actually helps your brain waves, and there's this whole neuroscience with it, and it's great. But people who do practice TM, as they call it, it sounds much easier for me. They do it together. They'll go see each other for dinner, and then, oh, let's do TM, and there it is. They'll all sit and, you know, do that and whatever. But it's, to me, I go, why don't you just listen to me? I'm not going against it because I know it's really good, but I wonder if they took meditation, like the science of meditation and what it does to your body, your brain, and put it up to listening to music, whether solo or together. I bet you're going to find the same thing, the same results for your body.
There's no question.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you shut off the world and just put yourself in between the speakers and let the music speak and focus 100% on the music, it's the same thing, right? Yeah. TM is nothing more than focusing on, you know, a specific letting go or whatever. That's what it is. You're listening to music, and
you're going to transcend. You're going to levitate, man. It's
you're going to become part of that music. It's, you know,
I think it's going to be similar.
I bought a orchestra. What do you call it? It's like it had every instrument.
A keyboard.
And I tried to play each instrument on my keyboard and then make it sound like a song. I wasn't very successful at it, but I did learn a lot about each instrument and its own personality and what you should not do. Like, for example, you can slide a guitar, but you probably shouldn't slide a xylophone, doesn't sound right,
and yet, if you take a violin bow and you bow, xylophone won't have enough, I don't think, power to do this. But if you take a vibraphone, right? Same thing, but bigger metal bars, right? You can bow those bars and get an incredible sound.
See, that's why you have to have the instrument too. Oh man,
that's where the real instrument comes into play. Exactly.
It's interesting. Stephan, for you, what are your musical memories outside of nature? Just like sitting and listening and drawing upon what inspired you musically.
I had when I was a kid, when I was like 8 or so, I listened to a lot of Beatles. I remember my sister listened to the Beatles, and so I listened too, and I really loved it. But then what was really important for me was my cousin. When I came to Europe, I lived with my cousin for a half a year, and he was a little bit older than I was, and he was totally into prog rock. So he listened to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, King Crimson, and all these English bands of the early 70s. And so I took a lot from him, and King Crimson was the band that really got me the most. The 1973 era King Crimson.
Yep.
With John Wetton and David Cross and Bill Bruford. Quartet. So that music still, it's when I listen to it today, it's from somewhere else. It's just unbelievable.
Doesn't get old.
No, totally doesn't.
Has this, when I listen to music, it takes me to places, to planets or I don't know what. And this music, it's such a incredible place where it takes me. And then I got really interested in Fripp, the guitarist, and I remember reading him speaking about the Bartók string quartets. So I bought those and started listening to those, and especially the fourth quartet. That was another piece that really baffled me. And which is
that's the one that Lark's Tongues came from.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, most probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, what I really what impressed me was the minimalists of the 70s, like Steve Reich and Bill Glass and Terry Riley.
Yes.
This was also a very important experience for me. So I think all these influences together, I think you can hear them pretty well in what I'm doing now.
It's amazing, the grounding and the flow, like we were talking about, with the two of you with this album Crossings. I did want to ask you about the very first track on there, because I don't want to try and pronounce it and mess it up like I did your name at the very beginning.
Vol de Nuit, Night Flight.
Oh, nice. Very nice. I like that. Ooh, I like that. That's a good title. Very cool. Well, you two, congratulations on this awesome album out together. We're very excited. We're going to play Infinity, but before you go, of course, we have to have some shenanigans, right? No,
come on. Listen, with you two, if we don't have some shenanigans going on.
Okay, listen, we always have to talk about food and drink with John on the show. He came on a happy hour show for 30 minutes and was on our show for an hour and a half the very first time. And we went off everywhere, right? But, so the first thing is, John, we call him the European, because what is going on, John? This is true. You're going to go travel again, right?
Yes, as soon as is possible. We're going off to Europe. I'm supposed to be playing a festival in Estonia in October, and so assuming that is actually going to be a possibility, then my wife and I are going to spend several weeks going around visiting friends like Stephan.
Are you going to see each other?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Have you ever played together in person?
No. No,
Dude.
not
Wow.
yet. Not
Oh,
yet.
you
We
got to
have,
come on Zoom. I
we
want to see
have,
it. Oh,
we
we wanna
have
see it.
plans where,
Oh my gosh, that'd be
so,
awesome.
um,
But you do,
yeah, so
you are European, and you
it calls to me.
yeah, it's in
know,
your DNA. That's it.
Mhm.
As
for
close
sure.
as we get to that is England and the Vikings. We're Viking in English and Hungarian.
Yeah, well,
Right.
if
Don't
I had
mess
my
with us.
choice, I'd go right back to Africa,
Yeah, that's it.
and it would never come out again.
That's it. I don't know out there. Stefan, do you ever come over to the States and go back to Santa Rosa or come out here and
Yeah,
tour?
I have a few times. Yeah, I
Okay.
was there. Let me see. I think the last time was November 2019. I was in San Francisco,
Mm.
and yeah, but I go regularly to
Oh,
America.
awesome.
I like
So
to. Yeah.
if you're going to listen to the album, I know you've, worked on it and everything. So don't listen to it for another 2 years. Okay. So 2 years into the future. Okay. You're going to listen to the album, each of you, and you're just going to go somewhere special, and you're going to have something easy either to drink or eat or both. Where would you go to just sit and immerse yourself in crossings? Where would you go, Stefan? And what are you going to enjoy while you do that?
I think I would go to Iceland. I think because first
Ooh.
of all, I always wanted to go there. Never been there. I went to Namibia twice. I love that because
Nice.
I love the desert. I love open skies and plains and so I love that. But I think this music would more fit in a northern kind of place like Iceland. So I think
it's got the dark water kind of feel. It's got like the
Mm.
dark, like,
Mm.
we just did the Oregon coast after we saw you, John.
Yeah,
And I still got to post our photos. I'll do that tomorrow of everything.
there we go.
But going on the coast of Oregon with just that rocky dark, but we got sunshine when we were there, believe it or not. We got sunshine, but there's something about that with when people think of water, they always think of the turquoise beaches. There's nothing like Nancy, her background here on the Zoom, if you're watching, she's got the turquoise,
I
but,
got turquoise.
and that's really beautiful and lovely, but there's something with the darker coast, like, you know what I mean? That more drama, and it's just, there's something magical and mystical with it. So I'm with you on the Iceland. I haven't done Iceland, but Namibia we've been to. When we lived in South Africa, we did the Kalahari Desert and crossed over there in Botswana, and it was
Even though we
magic.
were supposed to.
I know that's beautiful. John, where are you going?
So,
Oh,
well,
wait, Stefan, are you going to have something to eat or drink? Let's get important. It's important.
What am I going to drink?
if we're meeting up in Iceland, you're drinking Brennivin.
Oh no, that dark
Oh.
stuff.
No,
What's
no,
that
it's an
dark stuff?
aquavit. It's funnily enough, it's called the Black Death, but it's actually
Nice.
clear. It's an aquavit. It's caraway infused vodka, basically.
Oh, wow.
Okay, wait a minute. Now it's
And
dark.
I love it.
It's like that black sambuca.
Yeah.
That dark.
So I'm more than happy to go back to Iceland anytime. I absolutely love it, and I agree completely. There's something very different when you do the southern coast, and there's black sand beaches and just a completely different atmosphere from the southern waters that I'm seeing behind Nancy. It's there are so many places I have to go back to, and I feel really strongly that this music definitely comes from those northern climes. There's no question. It's got the space, it's got the stillness.
It's interesting because when I very first listened to some of it right before we saw you, and I said it's tribal again. Most people won't listen to this album at all and think it's tribal. People just think I'm nuts, but there is that sound of that. There's ethnicity in it, and I can't explain it, but it's that focus. And I think where Iceland, even Nancy, you did a video for travel writer Debbie Stone's photos when she went to Iceland, and we put this music, and it's very it's almost very Slavic, and this beautiful but tribal. It's just, I don't know, I can't explain it, but
It's really-
Crossings has it.
Really back to basics.
Yeah, it's like a pure heart music. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It just
Yep.
comes right from you, and that's what I mean by tribal. I'm not saying we're going to beat on drums and run
Lisa,
around.
it's the tree exercise.
Yes.
The tree exercise is where you go on your hands and knees next to a tree,
And
close
she's
your
back to
eyes.
it.
Yeah, put your right hand on the trunk of the tree, and you listen until your heartbeat matches, and you can hear the heartbeat of the tree.
Hmm.
That's tribal. That's grounded. That's connected. And it's a good exercise, but not with a cactus. Don't do
No.
Don't do a saguaro. No, they're not trees. But I want to know, are you going to drink the Black Death, Stefan? Are you going to drink that?
I've never had it before, but I'll try. Yeah, sure.
Okay, if you guys
Yeah,
do
why
that in
not?
Iceland, you better call us. We want to watch.
We'll have video for you.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, thank you both for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you back on. John, it's good to see you. And Stefan,
Thank
please
you.
come back and join us anytime. It's been wonderful. The album is Crossings. Again, Stephan-Thelen, and it's Thelen. Did I get it right? No.
Thelen.
Thelen. Oh
Thelen.
gosh, Thelen. I'll get there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a whole other way I want to go with it, and obviously I'm messing it up. But Thelen, Stephan-Thelen, Thelen, and everyone can get it on Bandcamp through you, and then also Jon-Durant on Bandcamp, right, John?
Yes.
And that's John
That's
with no
correct.
H. He cut the H away, so that's what happened to that.
I didn't. It was done for me.
All right,
my fault.
it was a birth snipping. All right, there it is. We'll leave it at that.
Hello.
All right, here it is. We're going to close with the song Infinity. I want to thank the National Parks Arts Foundation for sponsoring today's show. In fact, Nancy, you did the tree exercise, which is airing the day before this. And every first Friday, we interview artists, musicians, writers, poets, photographers who apply and also get awarded a 1-month residency in a national park unit. Places like Dry Tortugas National Park, you have your own island. Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, up in the northwest of New Mexico, Chaco Canyon, just in those ancient, oh my gosh, kivas. You've got to see that if you haven't been there. So it's a really Death Valley. It's an amazing program. So I encourage all of you in the creative arts to go to nationalparksartsfoundation.org and apply for one of their amazing programs. And also, if you are of giving, of the giving sense, they can always use help to keep arts and parks connected and out in the world. Okay, everyone, thanks for joining us. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Here it is, Infinity.